one of the outcomes from the Ben Roberts-Smith BC defamation case. Now, we talked about this last week about the fact it wasn't, well, okay, it was about defamation, but it was almost a proxy battle between two very, very, very deep-pocketed um, sides in the court case. You had Channel 9 on one side, or Nine Media Group, I think they're called now, with everything else, and then you had Channel 7 on the other. Now, the reason it was Channel 7 was because Ben Roberts-Smith VC was working for them at the time, and you had Channel 9 on the other because Channel 9 had made the initial outlaw, had published the allegations. I don't know that they were the first to make them. They were certainly the ones who published it and received the ire of Ben Roberts-Smith VC as a result. Because, well, don't know exactly why, but I'm sure Kerry Stokes, the owner of Channel 7, or the chairman for 7 West Media, was quite interested in taking it to Channel 9. And so, whether he fully believed the position of Ben Roberts-Smith or not, he obviously funded it. And so it sort of escalated. I mean, the whole case on defamation almost became a sideshow to the fact that these two behemoths were fighting it out using this as the means to do it. The fundamentals of what happened and to the defamation and everything else, I mean, we covered that previously, so no need to go in and rehash it. But with the appeal failing to be overturned, now the costs are coming down or costs are being assigned, and yeah, you're looking at a $13.5 million bill for a failed court case. Now, I'm sure that there's been plenty of failed and successful court cases. I'm sure it's probably part of it. Huh. Okay, Stokes' private company, Australian Capital Equity. Just reading that there, by Robert Smith and Stokes' private company. I don't know whether to read that you'd say that Robert Smith is part of Australian Capital Equity, or he has a personal stake in the 13.5 million, 13.3 million, and that Stokes is the owner of Australian Capital Equity. Good old English and ambiguity. So, yeah, the newspaper's costs, so from the Nine Media Group, $13.3 million worth of cost, and then another close to $250,000 for assessment processes. So that'll be like, I'm presuming, court procedures. I mean, if you've ever looked at taking cases to federal court or Supreme Courts and things like that, they do kind of have a schedule of costs that you can find out. I mean, the lawyer tells them to hand over all their money, they hand over all their money. But I have seen it for the Australian Federal Court because I was looking at it in regards to trying to work out what court would hear a certain case, because one of the parties would possibly be a government department if they refuse to allow the not sovereign immunity, but if they refuse to penetrate that barrier and release the individuals within the department for prosecution or for, basically for prosecution, it would depend. Like if it was the department defending, then it would be the federal court would be where it enters the system. If it was the individual exposed and allowed to be prosecuted directly, then it potentially would enter in a much lower court. Still, maybe go through a Supreme Court level at the states and things like that. But um, looking at the thing, and so the Australian Federal Court actually has a schedule of costs, and there's like lodging fees, there's motion fees, there's minimum costs, minimum daily costs. That depends if you're going to have a full bench or half bench hearing, all that sort of stuff. I mean, how many judges are going to listen to you? It depends, I guess, on the nature of the thing, and that's even before you get into the costs of representation. And if you do end up in a situation where, due to the nature of whatever the court case was, you have to pay costs for the other side, then yeah, they can rapidly escalate. So, I mean, Carl Jobst has found that out with the case Billy Mitchell brought against him in Queensland, and with the findings that were handed down due to the nature of that case, he has the exposure to have to pay the other side's court costs as well. So the finding itself can only be one small part of the overall cost that is borne for taking a case to court or being taken to court. So, and as it says there, that cost doesn't even cover the cost of the legal team supporting Robert Smith, uh, or the appeal. And like I said, those appeal costs could be rather expensive too, depending on which court you take it to. Um, so yeah, and then because the case was dismissed and there's basically agreed to do that, there was also an attempt during discovery, I guess, to access internal company communications, which I'm sure that Stokes was very unwilling to let anybody get access to. So, yeah. And the thing is, for the sake of, um, well, basically less than 6 months in court, the cost was $30 odd million, which indicates how much it costs to take a case to court, especially if you've got a team full of silks on both sides. Um, and, well, I don't think they're QCs anymore, SCs and KCs and everything else. Not cheap. So, yeah, obviously it runs over a brief rundown of the outcome of the cost again, which is we've covered before. So, and there you go. The court has ordered Robert Smith to pay the newspaper cost of appeal, which is about 70% of the bills, and it then talks about, well, I don't think he was getting paid millions of dollars by Channel 7 or by Kerry Stokes, so it'd be, well, life-changing amount of money, that's for sure. Um, this I've not heard of before, which is a couple of the papers trying to subpoena Gina Rinehart, so Australia's richest woman, uh, to see whether she has helped bankroll his appeal, or that had been another set of deep pockets in his corner. And it'd be interesting to see where that goes. So it looks like the it looks like this isn't going away peacefully into the darkness. It's still hanging on and coming on. And I mean, I mean, it's possible he was getting paid this much, but he paid a court cost security, for bringing the appeal. So it it's it'll be interesting. I mean, whilst I guess the formal defamation case is completed and the appeals are done, yeah, to see how these costs pan out and whether or not other people were bankrolling him. Well, that'll be, I guess, still more time to see. Still interesting to come down the pipeline. What and who were um, were funding him or not, as the case may be. But no, that one was yeah, that one was fairly interesting. And like I said in the initial coverage of it, maybe just take the hit against your character, particularly if there's strong suspicion and strong enough evidence that whatever you did may be perceived that way. Now, the odd thing is, if people look into who Ben Robert Smith is and look at who his father is, it's odd that he went into a court case like this. I'm guessing maybe his dad didn't give him any advice, or if he did, maybe he was convinced of his son's position. Or maybe there was enough uncertainty at the time, or the way the information had been presented, that it was worth a shot. I don't know. But yeah, hopefully this is the conclusion of all of that.